Today on My Fin Journey, we're joined by someone who's not just changed how communities operate, but how leaders show up. It begs the question, what happens when empathy meets execution? When someone takes the soft skills the world overlooks and uses them to build systems, scale leadership, and drive results. Today we're joined by Marcy Kravit, a strategist, educator, author, and mentor who has redefined what it means to lead with intention. From transforming HOAs with AI and technology to mentoring executives and building platforms of trust, her journey is a masterclass in self-awareness, resilience, and financial clarity. But this conversation goes deeper than titles. We talk about money, beliefs that almost broke her, the moment she stopped reacting and started designing, and how to build wealth without losing your soul. If you're ready to question how you work, how you earn, and how you lead, stay tuned. This one will challenge you in all the right ways. Marcy, welcome to My Fin Journey.
Thank you, Mustafa. It's great to be here, and thank you for that powerful introduction.
No, you're too kind. We're honored to have you with us. So Marcy, I really wanted to understand, before the titles, the accolades, what was a moment you felt completely unseen or underestimated, and how did you find the strength to move forward anyway?
I would say that in my younger years, managing properties, it was a struggle because we weren't provided the tools to succeed. And basically, here in Florida, attending classes for 2 days and taking a test and calling yourself a manager, it just doesn't cut it. One of my first high rises in Fort Lauderdale, I was tasked with many projects, and one of them being restoration projects and dealing with some of the residents that had no idea what it was like to live in a condominium because they came from another place. It was very challenging, and I felt very lost. And that's what led to my writing. And I started journaling, and I started giving back and sharing all the tasks and tips and tricks and managing high rises.
I love it, Marcy. And I feel like this is a common theme, at least with the people that I speak to, that we're not really provided the tools to succeed. If you don't mind me asking, Marcy, why do you think that is? Like, the flip side is that we're in an environment where there's so much information everywhere, and yet a lot of us feel like we don't have the tools to succeed.
I would say back then we didn't have the internet. At that time, we didn't have podcasts like this. I mean, basically, we had to learn by attending classes live, and we were not given the literature that was necessary until I discovered an organization that is worldwide now, and that's called the Community Associations Institute, where I earned all of my designations and all that alphabet soup after my name.
I love it. I feel like that's very apt. So today, if you were to kind of give advice to your younger self or your child or someone that you're mentoring or someone that's read your book and reached out to you to say, Marcy, amazing book, I loved XYZ advice, and they were saying, hey, I don't have the tools to succeed, what type of advice would you give them to accomplish, in 1 year, what might have taken you 10 years to accomplish?
I would say join the Community Associations Institute and find a mentor. And get with your colleagues and networking and attend these events and learning from your peers. I think it's so important nowadays to have someone that's gone through it, been there, done that, and can share with you all the do's and don'ts and how to lead a team, how to manage a property, and how to deal with conflict.
It's very powerful. I guess on the other side, Marcy, you've also led with empathy in boardrooms and built systems across communities. So you've also worked with people maybe not necessarily looking for solutions. How has that shaped how you approach problem solving, how you approach communication styles, and how you approach getting results?
I've had to deal with people from all over the world. They have different cultures, they have differences of opinions, and many that have never lived in a community association. They're governed by rules and regulations. So you have to be able to educate them and lead with empathy and understand where they're coming from. I think the most important thing is to put yourself in their shoes. And especially many of them are volunteers serving on a board of directors, and being someone that is leading them and trying to get them to solve problems and utilizing your experts in the field, such as attorneys and your engineers, to help you solve whatever situation you're facing. And especially over the years, we've seen a lot of challenges, especially since the Champlain Tower situation, where a lot of boards, they just kicked the can down the road and they failed to properly maintain their structures. And they only did what was popular, like renovating the lobby. So having empathy and understanding where everyone's coming from, putting yourself in the other person's shoes, and dealing with conflict through education, I think those three principles are what basically I follow and I followed throughout my career.
I love it, Marcy. Thank you. I think you said something really deep that a lot of the listeners might have missed. So before I go into that, I just want to take a pause for a second and just say that if you're listening to this and if the conversation is making you pause, reflect, rethink how you're growing in your own path, essentially if you're finding value here, take 10 seconds, subscribe to the channel, leave a 5-star review, drop a comment on what's resonating. It helps us bring real stories to you, real strategies, real people who are actually on their financial journey. So that way you can scale faster and you can take what's taken them 5, 10, 15, 20 years and learn about it in 30 minutes. So Marcy, you said something that is very simple, that obviously I have my own bias, I would answer the question my own way, but you said something that I think is very simple. You said that when you're training your staff, you tell them that we don't have problems, we have situations. Explain the difference to me at a 5th grade level, if you don't mind, between, to help me understand why you view these as situations and not problems, and why you encourage others to view them as situations and not problems.
Because situations are things that we can deal with. I mean, we have situations, nothing is ever perfect. You're dealing with change, you're dealing with emotion, you're trying to run a property and provide added value as a manager, and as a team, you're trying to get everyone's buy-in. So of course you're going to have situations where you have performance issues and productivity issues, you have personality issues, you have vendor issues, there may be issues with the board members, and these are just situations that can be worked out. I don't look at things as problems. A problem is like maybe we have a pipe that broke. That's a problem and we need to fix it. But everything else seems to fall into the situation bucket that we can resolve within a day or two, and we can really face it head on. And when it comes to situations, we have to think about what's the best strategy to get the best outcome. And when you have a problem, I think it's referencing it in a negative connotation.
I love that, Marcy. I would say something similar. Like for me, it's not a problem, it's an opportunity, right? I have no money. I need to figure out how to do without no money. I have this amazing opportunity to invest, but I have no money. That creates an opportunity for someone else. Or I have a lot of money, but I don't have anywhere to deploy it. And I think mindset is really important. I think mindset is one of those things that the easiest way to get it is to follow your steps and find a mentor, which I think a lot of people mention. And you gave a very actionable way to find the right mentor. Ultimately, it's just to look at the same situation, problem, opportunity, the same paradigm, and just look at it from a different angle to say, hey, if I approach this a bit more proactively, if I have a positive attitude and mindset, this doesn't become insurmountable, and it's not a negative situation or a positive situation. It's a neutral situation.
Yeah, it's just a matter of adapting and finding the potential solution, finding the path to resolution.
Yeah, definitely, Marcy. So when we're talking about all these topics, when we're talking about soft skills, when we're talking about your professional journey, how has that influenced and impacted your personal financial journey? Help us kind of understand your approach to personal finance.
Well, I approach it this way. I ended up in a role that is just an amazing role as a senior director of community association relations for a technology company. I've elevated myself to the point where I feel very confident that I can help other people see that they can save money and provide service. And when it comes to my career, I think I've always looked at saving money and providing service as an individual. Financially, I've never worried about money because I just live for the moment and take it day by day and just be happy with what I have. I'm not looking for any huge return except the fact that I just love being around people and making a difference. And as long as I feel secure in my role, which I'm thrilled and grateful that for the last 4.5 years I was able to transition into this role at Hotwire and help people save money and also understand the value of fiber technology and how much money I can help save their residents to enhance their quality of life. To me, I think it's just gratifying.
I love it. And if you were to think about it, where do you think that your outlook on money, outlook on saving, outlook on creating value for residents, where do you think that mindset of giving back and saving came from?
I think it came from being a board member myself in my HOA for the last 20 plus years. Sitting in that seat and looking at what's in the best interest for everyone. And this is probably one of the biggest investments that anyone makes, and that's their home. And anything we can do to add value and make them feel part of something bigger when it comes to HOAs and condos, they're part of more than just living in their home. It's a community. And it's bringing unity into that community and making everyone feel that they're part of something bigger.
I love it. Very powerful response, Marcy. So for the benefit of the audience, I'd really appreciate it if you could share one conflict or one crisis or one situation, if you will, that you managed that was or appeared to be insurmountable at the time, but you were able to kind of get through it.
I've dealt with so many conflicts, Mustafa, I don't even know where to start. I can tell you
The
that
most viral one.
I had a situation in Miami. This was a luxury high-rise, Miami Beach. And we had two factions, you know, the ones that wanted the renovation of the lobby. I always refer to this because everyone has their own opinion on how to decorate and what style. And should we go with tile or carpet or what colors? And everyone has their own style and their own opinion. And of course, there was a beautification committee, and those are volunteers that are supposed to be making recommendations for the board of directors to make an educated business judgment when it comes to hiring the designer and deciding how they're going to go about renovating the lobby. Well, I had such a situation at a board meeting where they were actually throwing chairs at one another, and I had to call the police and put a stop to it because at the meeting it got so heated. So I actually had town hall meetings to let everyone voice their opinion. And I find that communication is so important, and getting feedback, sending out a survey, providing a newsletter, and a website where everyone can voice their opinion. And it really helped settle the temperature. I mean, once we gave everyone an opportunity to speak and voice their opinions, I think everyone came together and we had a compromise. And I teach a class on creating harmony, conflict management in community associations, and I talk about this a lot. And when it comes to boards fighting and that in-house fighting, it doesn't really help anyone because you can't accomplish anything. And as a manager, you feel like you're just spinning your wheels, and then every month you see the same items on the agenda and nothing ever gets done. So I have some tips and tricks on how to deal with that, and I talk about that in my class.
I love it. I especially enjoyed the fact that you mentioned the community infighting and how it ends up resulting in harm to everybody because nothing gets done. So help me understand, Marcy, from your perspective, with respect to personal finance, have you heard of, or experienced in your own situation, certain things, certain decisions people make that kind of effectively do the same thing, create self-harm or create a situation where nothing ever gets done?
In other words, you're saying that they just don't look towards the future and just live in the moment, and they don't
Sure.
plan, and they don't have a plan or a strategy. Being a mother and having kids, when you're younger, it's a wake-up call because you're not just responsible for yourself and your love, your spouse. You're now responsible for children and giving them everything you want to plan for their future. And I think that's where we shift our mindset, and we have to really think about the finances. How are we going to put them through college and give them a life where they feel proud of and where you feel proud of? And then once they leave the nest, you can say, I did my job and I fulfilled all their needs.
I love it, Marcy. I think it was a good pivot in the sense that a lot of people talk about saving for college, things of that nature, but also trying to balance living in the moment and enjoying life to the best of our ability. So from your perspective, what do you think professionally has enabled you to build some sort of balance or to build some sort of system or some sort of structure with respect to parenting and raising kids?
Wow, that's something that I think was instilled in me by my parents. And I have to say that I learned so much from my father, who was someone that was all about family and just someone that was genuinely wanting to do what's best. And he was a hard worker, and he owned retail stores, and we didn't see him much, but when we did, he made it like a party because he always invited people over and made us feel really good about being part of the family, and invited other people in our home. In fact, there were many people that he would come across that didn't have a place to live. They didn't have food on the table. At Thanksgiving, it was always an open door, and he helped support those people. So I learned at a very young age that it's not all about the wealth that you have in your bank account. It's about the wealth about giving to others and feeling good about it. And I'm a big believer in paying it forward, and I think that that'll come back to you full circle. And just like we networked on LinkedIn, we're all here to help each other. LinkedIn is an amazing platform, which, by the way, it was a huge milestone, and just really proud to have so many followers on my LinkedIn. And I've met some incredible people that are part of my extended family.
No, I love that, Marcy. And I think it's really important because you touched on a lot of good concepts in terms of just leading from value creation, right? And it feels like you touched on it a couple different times. And now the audience can kind of understand that, it comes from your dad. Like, he was busy working, but he still made time, and whatever time he was able to make was quality time. And it's able to instill those values in you that you're able to pass on to your kids, which is really quite powerful. So, Marcy, you've mentored many leaders. What is one thing that kind of sticks out when you think of the different leaders you've mentored in terms of, I guess, a reoccurring challenge, problem, situation that you see that they face?
Well, what I see is that most leaders think about the I factor, me. We have to think about the we and what's good for others. And everyone's trying to gain a target audience on their social platform. Everyone's trying to gain customers by approaching them. But I say it's all about building relationships. It's not about the products and the services. It's all about just getting people to trust you and to have the confidence in you. And then they're going to want to do business with you, or they'll remember you when it comes time where they need your services. But what I'm doing with people in my world is training them to have that understanding that we're not here to sell our products and services. We're here to sell us as a person, somebody that is a trusted business partner in providing that service. And,
So,
at
Marcy,
Hotwire, that's all we do. We're dedicated partners. We're all about finding that connection and not just the fiber connection.
I love that, Marcy. Sometimes I feel like when I'm having conversations with people and they might have an interesting product or an interesting pitch, but they haven't pitched me yet, I just tell them, listen, I just need you to pitch me so I clearly understand your product, your service, and then I can clearly tell you if it's a good fit for me or not. So, with that in mind, Marcy, I really want to understand, what is the core business that you do at Hotwire? Who does it help? And if somebody wanted to reach out to you to kind of learn more about this product, what would be the best way?
Well, we are a fiber to the home company. We're here to provide internet and television services to community associations. And we've been around for over 20 years. And we've had the same continuous leadership team for over 20 years. And we're building a company for the long term. And the key difference is we have the secret sauce, the extra layer of account management. And those dedicated account managers are there for the entire life of the term of the agreement. And when it comes to internet, it's not just the service. Again, it's all about the relationship, about the partnership. And if anyone is interested in our services, we've got a robust community portal, which is an additional communication tool to reach out to your homeowners and be able to communicate to them through your television. And we also have an amazing, what we call Fission Education Department. For those residents, especially our 55 and better, we're able to provide an in-person, virtual, or over the phone education session. So anybody that's interested, I'd love for you to reach out to me and I can share with you everything about our concierge level service at Hotwire Communications. You can reach me at Marcy, M-A-R-C-Y, .kravit@hotwiremail.com, or you can reach me on my website at marcykravit.com.
Beautiful, Marcy. So what we'll do is we'll include those links and those resources in the show notes for anyone who's looking to learn more. But Marcy, help me understand, how did you get into this space? Obviously, you and I talked before this interview, but I think for the audience, I think they'd really love to understand, your professional journey prior to Hotwire.
I was actually a customer. As a manager, I had Hotwire servicing my properties, and it was an amazing experience. And they actually transformed my community's connectivity. And I was passionate about technology, even back in the early days when I was trying to convince my board members to put in access control or fobs. They looked at me like I was an alien on another planet. And I mean, I remember the days of DSL and dial-up and fax machines. And I was always very passionate about elevating the lifestyle for the residents and providing them the latest and greatest technology. Unfortunately, I had to make the decision about leaving property management. I had a minor health setback and doctor's orders. I had to take a leave of absence, and I was contacted by Hotwire, and I was thrilled to be able to provide my insights in the community association management space, and I've been grateful to them ever since.
Naturally sad to hear that you had a health scare and a health challenge. But help us understand, Marcy, how were you able to pivot to Hotwire? Because obviously you had a good experience working with them, and you had this challenge that you wouldn't wish on anyone. But it's kind of, when you talk to a lot of people, having a health scare is one of those things that leads people to a different career and a different job in a different industry where maybe they have some experience, maybe they have no experience. But I don't think everyone is able to pivot as strategically or efficiently or gracefully as you were able to. So help us understand, what enabled you to be in a very strong position to pivot.
Well, I knew that I could have gone to work anywhere. I could have worked for I was offered a landscaping company, security company, valet company. I mean, all of my service providers said, but it was all brought on by stress because it was during COVID and we had no policies and procedures in place. But so at that time, for me to leave property management was devastating because it's always been my passion. And knowing that Hotwire specifically served community associations, and I watched them grow over the years, and I saw the level of service and the long-term tenures of their employees. That sold me. And also knowing that we've had the same owner, our fearless owner, Kristen Johnson, and being a woman in this business, just to me, that was incredible. And I just felt an attachment from the very beginning when I first met them. And then I would say that thanks to Carl Lender, who is an executive vice president, who was the number 2 employee in the company, and also Joanne Willoughby, who's someone that I worked very closely with and served on the board of the Community Associations Institute. Those 2 individuals convinced me that this was the best path for me, being someone that's passionate about technology, passionate about community associations.
I love it, Marcy. That's awesome.
Thanks.
So help me understand. You mentioned being passionate about technology. We've kind of seen it to some degree in some of your answers. When you're looking at technology, how do you think technology has changed the way you approach your personal finances?
Well, we have online portals for everything. I mean, on a daily basis, we can check our balances. We can do our banking online. I remember the old school having to write out checks, lick stamps. So those days are over, and it's really helped us advance and become more efficient.
Do you feel like all this technology, whether it's on the resident side, living in communities, or on your personal side, managing your personal finances, do you feel like all this technology has improved efficiency and helped you grow?
I would say absolutely. I also teach a class on AI for property management, optimizing the digital revolution. And I talk to property managers on how they can improve their efficiencies and how they can work smarter and spend less time on the administrative work. I wish I had that when I was in property management, but I use it every day. I can tell you that at Hotwire, I know we use AI for many things, and when it comes to smart home technology, we also partnered with Lennar, the builder. We do all of their smart home technology. So our residents that are purchasing in Lennar homes are getting the latest and greatest smart technology. And to me, we have to be ready to transform. We have to be ready to be able to evolve and accept that it's just going to keep getting better and better. I mean, before you know it, we're going to be like the Jetsons, and we already do have self-driving cars.
I love it, Marcy. I agree with you. We have to be ready. I guess the flip side is like AI is coming after people's jobs and AI is replacing people. What do you think of that?
I don't think it's going to replace people. I think it's just going to enhance people. If it is replacing people, then maybe it's happening for a reason and it will give them a better opportunity to pivot into something greater, or it will force them to have to learn and evolve field. And I was forced to learn it only because I felt as a technology person, I better know it.
I agree with you. I think it circles back to that situation versus problem, how we approach things. Technology can either replace you or it can make you more efficient, and it depends on how you analyze the situation. Are you going to use it to improve your efficiency to become even more invaluable? Or are you going to feel like, oh, AI is already doing this, so let me just, quit now? And I think that when you have that mentality and mindset with any situation, you're able to pivot, you're able to stay nimble, and you're able to continue to grow. So Marcy, help me understand if you don't mind. I mean, a lot of people that I speak to who are working for employees, they reach a point where they feel stuck. It feels like you're not at that point, you haven't reached that point, you have a lot of passion. Help me understand, the difference from your perspective.
Well, I can tell you that there was a point here at Hotwire I felt that I already accomplished what I set out to accomplish. And that was to bring awareness and branding and exposure to our Palm Beach Greater Treasure Coast area. And being that our developing markets needed help and support, and they wanted my expertise in understanding this space, last October, I was able to pivot again and help support our developing markets. So I say when you get stuck within your company, and you should always look to see how you can expand your expertise and see if there's any way that you can start something new or train to learn something new. I'm a big believer in education, and we have to continually learn and develop ourselves. And when it comes to the internet, there's no stopping you. I was able to learn how to reset the dashboard on my car by watching a YouTube video. Now, how much have you applied utilizing the internet to learn whatever you need to learn? Years ago, you would have to reach out to someone to teach you how to do things. Now, you don't even need that. And there's so many online courses. So when it comes to feeling stuck, I mean, maybe in the moment you feel, well, I want something to be different. Maybe I need to make a change. Whatever you need to do, be decisive and don't think twice about moving forward. it's important for you to be positive and know that there may be something greater for you out there. But I think what happens is, Mustafa, we get too comfortable and we're afraid to go out of our comfort zone and we become stagnant if we don't continue with the learning cycle.
How do you think that this impacts people's, personal finances? Do you think people get stuck in their personal finances, get too comfortable and don't learn and grow?
When it comes to personal finances, I say that if you're looking at your checkbook and you're saying, well, I really need to make more money and I need to be able to be in a different position because I know I've capped out and I've reached the glass ceiling, then when it comes to your personal finances, don't be afraid of change. Don't be afraid to look at what else you can do. Maybe you have soft skills that you can apply in another position, or maybe you have added value in another company that might have a need for your service.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think you said something that I feel is very powerful. Don't be afraid of change. And the one thing that I would add is it almost feels like change is constant. So you need to kind of be comfortable being uncomfortable, be comfortable knowing that dynamics are changing. And in that, you have certain skills you've developed, hard skills, soft skills, you have certain expertise that you can leverage to monetize, to create value, to be more, let's say, resilient despite the changing situation.
And I was on a plane a couple weeks ago and I was flying back from a trip and there was a student sitting next to me that was attending the University of Miami studying to be a doctor. And she said that she had imposter syndrome and she was doubting herself. She was wondering, I don't feel I deserve this. I don't feel that I'm going to be successful being a doctor. And I sat there throughout the whole trip trying to get her to see she's definitely deserving of it and she needs to embrace it and she needs to realize that she was comparing herself to other people. Don't look at other people and think of them. Think about what you can do and why you deserve this and how hard you've worked to get here. And I think that if you just believe in yourself, you can move forward in anything that you want to do.
I 100% agree, Marcy. Thank you so much, Marcy. You've blessed us with a lot of wisdom, a lot of insight. Really appreciate how you've shared how to turn conflict into clarity, how to strategically scale, and how to display empathy to so many different people. If you were listening to this podcast and if you feel like you've been surviving instead of designing, I hope this conversation has been a wake-up call. Marcy, you've reminded us that financial literacy isn't just about the money. It's about self-awareness, intention, and the courage to question the script that you've been handed. So here's the challenge. If you're listening to this, what's one thing that you're going to do differently? Comment below, let us know. If something resonated, share this episode with someone you care about. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review with your biggest takeaway. It helps more people on their journey. Until next time, stay intentional, stay resilient, and remember, your future isn't something you wait for, it's something you design.